Patrick Barone is here. He's going to talk to us about DUIs and the high cost and avoiding all that. I mean, you have clients.
I do.
The cost can range from what to what? I mean, it can go as high as $20,000, right?
Absolutely.
So how do we avoid that?
Well, the best way to avoid it is to not drink and drive.
Use a cab service, Metro car, Uber, something like that. Or
stay home.
Well, there's no doubt that tonight is a big holiday for drinking.
Okay.
So we can be sure of two things. Number one, lots of people are going to be drinking and driving. And number two, there's going to be lots of extra police out making drunk driving arrests.
And there are some myths when it comes to...
What are some of the things that people tell themselves, you know, like coffee sobers me up and things like that? What are the top lies we tell ourselves?
Probably the number one would be if I eat a big meal. Everyone likes to eat a big meal on New Year's Eve, right? Usually it's a steak, maybe some lobster, lots of high fat. What ends up happening is it slows down the alcohol absorption, but it doesn't keep you from getting drunk. So that's not going to work.
So you stay drunk longer.
Stay drunk longer.
We have a top 10 countdown, or I guess in this case, an infamous bottom 10 countdown of excuses and caveats that, can we show those?
So, okay, number 9 says, I planned ahead and got a drunk driver. I planned ahead and got a designated driver. Why doesn't that work?
Well, I can't tell you how many times I have represented the designated driver. Because what ends up happening is the designated driver thinks, I'm only going to drink a little bit of alcohol. And once you go down that slippery slope, one leads to another. Before you know it, you're over the legal limit, and they have no idea.
So it was kind of like what I just said. You planned ahead and got a drunk driver. You ended up with a drunk driver when you thought you had a designated driver, right?
The designated driver has to remain completely abstinent, no alcohol whatsoever.
All right, how about number 8? I'll stop drinking early in the evening.
Well, if you stop drinking early, two things can happen. Number one, the alcohol continues to be absorbed, which means you can end up drunker. And number two, as you're coming down on the alcohol curve, in other words, when you're starting to be less drunk, your mind tells you that you're less drunk than you think that you actually are. So what ends up happening is you set yourself up for failure.
Number 7, I only had one glass.
Well, it depends on what's in the one glass. Basically, a unit of alcohol gives you about a 0.025 in your blood.
All right.
So that means 3 units of alcohol, but a unit of alcohol can be a shot and a half of 80 proof liquor. So if you're drinking a martini that's got 3 shots, that's 2 units of alcohol.
Sure.
Right there, you're getting pretty close to the legal limit.
And it depends on the person. You know, you could be 100 pounds, you could be 190 pounds.
That's right.
How about those people who say I'm an excellent drunk driver?
Well, there's no such thing as an excellent drunk driver. You only think you're an excellent drunk driver. Those are the people that are probably the most dangerous of all on the road.
All right, number 5, I don't feel drunk.
Well, again, the person who's the least able to make that decision is the person who's actually doing the drinking.
Number 4 on the list is an interesting one. I'll just stick to wine. Do people really think that wine is not going to make them as drunk as other liquors?
Yes. And the problem is, especially today, with sweeter wines being more popular, wine today has more alcohol than it used to have. So one drink of a glass of wine actually packs a much bigger punch than people realize.
Well, then number 3 actually makes me think of the old stat that most accidents happen within 5 minutes or 5 miles of your house. And it says, I'll be fine, I'm not driving far.
Most of the time, the people that I represent are very close to their house. It seems like for some reason that's where they end up getting pulled over. So that's not safe at all.
And then we have...
the portable breathalyzer.
Do those work? Portable breathalyzers they sell at the different stores and online?
Absolutely not. In fact, the police breathalyzers, the one that they use on the road, the results of those aren't even admissible in court. So let's say you buy something at, you know, one of the stores that you can buy a little unit that you can blow into, maybe an app on your phone, something like that. Let's say it says you're a 0.05. You think, well, I'm fine because legal limit's 0.08. You end up driving, getting into an accident, killing somebody. That 0.05 is not going to save you.
Yeah, and people think that they have all these tricks to fool the breathalyzers, like the penny under the tongue thing, and none of that works either.
There's no way to fool it. Might not always be 100% accurate, but you can't fool it by putting a penny in your mouth. Here's
my question. We know it's expensive to get a DUI, but what does it do to your job? What kinds of consequences post-DUI do you have?
That's the biggest problem of all, because there's really 3 categories of consequences. There's what the court imposes, then there's what the Secretary of State imposes on your driver's license, And then there's all the collateral consequences.
Sure.
Lots of people we represent are the most concerned about the fact that they might lose their job. Lots of different categories of jobs or professions. They have to report it to the state. That can cause them to lose their professional license. Lots of employers will not hire somebody that has a drunk driving arrest. And it's becoming more popular to look at the driving record as part of the interview.
And the last one that we didn't mention was coffee sobers me up.
Well, again, that's a big myth. Now, it's true that alcohol is a central nervous system depressant and caffeine is a central nervous system stimulant. That doesn't mean they balance each other out. You can't use one to balance the other.
Sure.
You just end up being a more wide awake drunk.
Yeah, an alert drunk.
Exactly.
So the bottom line, if you're going to drink it all, don't get behind the wheel.
Absolutely. There's no safe way to know whether or not you're over the legal limit. So if you're going to drive, don't drink.
Yeah, because absolutely, those other consequences are bad, but the worst thing I can imagine is hurting someone or yourself or taking a life. It's not worth it.
Absolutely. You don't want to start the new year with a drunk driving arrest or worse, being in an accident.
Give the folks at home your web address, your email, or phone numbers so they can contact you if they need you.
Okay. The website is yourmichiganduilawyer.com, and I'm at 248-594-4554.
All right, Patrick,
Thanks so much
for being here.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night. Happy New Year.
Good to see you. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
All right, coming up on a lighter note, we're going to have